All right, great. Thank you all. Good morning again. Welcome on this beautiful day to our Falls Lake Nutrient Management Study Symposium. We're excited to hear from a bunch of different researchers who've been doing work on this project and understand the work of the group, that the intention is to gather new actionable information to improve decision-making around water quality management in Falls Lake. So in 2016, the General Assembly approved legislation that funded a series of work, first in Jordan Lake and then in Falls Lake. And it came to the North Carolina Policy Collaboratory, who identified the team and provided the funding. And there were a couple of explicit mandates in the legislation. And one of them was to consider existing data in the systems, whether it be from DWQ or from other stakeholders, and to see how the water quality data related to any strategies which had already been implemented. So an idea of how well might ongoing efforts be working, and how might the available data help you scale future interventions. And then secondly, there was an explicit call to examine costs and benefits of the basin-wide nutrient management, and to be clear about successes and lack thereof of any efforts that had gone forward. So in this part, in the Falls part, we wrapped up the Jordan section and submitted the final report in 2019. But in the Falls portion, we've been really fortunate to work with the Upper Neuse River Basin Association, or UNRBA, as we'll refer to it to the rest of the day. They've been a key partner. When we began working in Jordan, one of the problems we faced was that there just weren't a lot of data. Whereas Falls Lake, there are an awful lot of data, maybe the most for any southeastern reservoir, maybe the most for any reservoir, I don't know, but there's an awful lot of data, and that's been a tremendous help, as has our partnership with the UNRBA team and their technical advisors. So that, I'll just acknowledge, has been a wonderful part of the first 2 years of the Falls Lake project. So as we did in Jordan, we've taken a systems approach that necessarily includes biological, physical, chemical attributes of Falls Lake and of the reservoir, but also an explicit inclusion of people's role in the system, both through their activities and through communities' connections to bodies of water like Falls Lake. So I think it's important. One of the things we did in the front part of our Jordan Lake report was to remind everybody of the distinctions between lakes and reservoirs. So Falls Lake is definitely called Falls Lake, but it is a dammed reservoir, and it's a dammed reservoir in the southeast. And reservoirs, as compared to lakes, have higher levels of primary productivity, more algal growth. They trend towards being more eutrophic, so having excessive algal growth to the point of being problematic. And often that idea of they're trending towards being eutrophic is reflected in even the planning documents. If you look at the old documents for Jordan Lake, certainly that the Corps predicted in the 70s that eutrophication would be a problem there. They also have higher watershed drainage area to lake volume. So more land, material and water from more land comes to reservoirs than it does generally to lakes. And they have distinct physical processes. We know from Rick Ludick and Harvey's work in Jordan that there have been observations in the past of some of the dynamics of flow there, where Haw River water would end up going upstream, but they found that there are even more instances than originally thought of water flowing away from the dam, which of course isn't necessarily what you would guess if you were just looking at it, but is really important to understanding the way that not only the water is distributed, but things like nutrients are distributed. So all of these distinctions between lakes and reservoirs are important to just think about as we hear information on Falls Lake today, and think about the management of the lake to retain the benefits that we get from it. So have it be fishable, swimmable, drinkable, have it adhere to the standards that we want to hold it to, that are indicative of its delivering these values to people, and whether or not perhaps that's accurately reflected by the standards that are used for lakes. So we have a great lineup today. Just some housekeeping. If you would please use the Q&A for questions. And as you ask questions from the audience, from the participants in the symposium, they'll come to the panelists, who include the presenters. And because the presenters' talks are recorded, there'll be an opportunity for straightforward questions to be answered on the fly. So if you ask a question about an axis, hopefully the presenter will be able to answer that in the Q&A and respond in close to real time. So that's one way that questions will be answered. And additionally, after the blocks of talks, there'll be a period of time dedicated to answering questions that have come in, and I'll work through those and ask the questions to the respective presenters to provide that information. So there are interactive sessions today. I will say, people always say it's intuitive, but I went through them, and Victoria and Grant have done a wonderful job of making them intuitive. There will be, the URLs will be dropped into the Q&A, and you can follow those links to interact during the time between sections. This is similar if you came to the Jordan session, the Jordan Symposium. This is similar to the table talk section. So I think that's going to be a great addition. And good to know also, should you have conflicts during the day, that all this material will be online following the symposium. So I'll conclude by thanking Victoria and Grant for their great work on this. It is always difficult, especially when the bar was set so high in their work in the Jordan Symposium, to have something that translates to this virtual world that we're still have one foot in at least. So thank you all. I think we're set up for a great day. And with that, I will turn it over to Grant to get us started.